You can all join palms. And repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
In the palms joint. Palms down. All right, good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all. Thanks for showing up. Quick show of hands. How many of you would want the air conditioning on right now? That wasn't my question. It was I don't even know who said that. It was a question, not to have a question. It was a question. You know what's actually really funny? It's so difficult for people to just honestly answer questions. I mean, I will probably turn this question into some Dharma talk, but maybe I'll do that now. Yeah, I mean, it's a question. And whether there was a comment, I don't even know who the comment was from, but it doesn't even matter. I just heard it in this direction, right? Was it Al? Of course it was Al. I should have known it was you. I actually thought it was somewhere over here, so I didn't want to embarrass somebody over here, but since it's you, I mean...
Well, it's comfortable. If it's on and you're going to shut it, then it'll be warm.
Yeah.
If it's off, if it's necessary, because it's comfortable.
We have the same background, my friend. See how difficult this stuff is? Back to my Dharma talk on the question. It's we get questions, right? And people have a hard time very often, not all people, maybe you're offended by this, but some people, many people, most people I know, have a really hard time with a question just being honest with an answer. I mean, we look at Buddhist teachings around right speech and honesty. It's very difficult for people to just be honest with things. It's a simple question. But then all the thoughts go through our heads, the judgments, the rationales, the logic, the should I answer it, should I not answer it, what are they going to think about my answer, am I going to be the one who's going to raise my hand and then people will judge me. There's all kinds of thought that goes on from one simple question. But the simple question, which is simply, how many of you would want the air conditioning on? It's like you all froze. I only saw someone's hand just went right up. Yeah, one hand. Thank you for being the honest one, Jim. It's like, yes, I do. I want the air. I mean, the air's not going on anyways right now. I just want to clarify that. This was really more feedback and research for the evening classes because we do have AC. About 2 years ago, we spent a ton of money to put AC in, so we're happy to use it. But it's getting to be about that time where, we want people comfortable. We're not trying to torture you here. I mean, not usually. So it was an honest question of who would want the air conditioning on? And that would give me, at least sitting here, a sense of who would want the air, and if it went on, who would not want the air. So the air is not on right now. Yeah.
Simple question.
Yeah, I know. Simple question. Maybe I was the one who didn't want to answer your question. Yeah. So we'll try this again. Who would want the air on right now?
Could you put on this half of the room?
Is there a Dharma lesson in this?
No. Yeah, so, all right, thank you for that feedback. I will report back to the authorities and let you know what we come up with. Or as I often say, if you have any complaints, you can put it in the complaint box. and we'll review those. But it actually, that's kind of where I was going from a Dharma lesson, is that why is it so difficult for us to answer questions? And just something to ponder. We get asked questions all day long about things, and instead of just coming back with a direct, honest, kind of heartfelt gut answer, we formulate ideas and concepts and strategies in our head versus just answering a question. So with that opening, we'll start with a meditation practice. For those who are joining virtually, welcome. Glad you're here. I hope you have your air conditioning on wherever you are. Sending thoughts as well to, I know there was I don't know any latest update. I know there was a fire happening up in Del Mar, so just holding some thoughts for everybody out that way that's dealing with the brush fire up in Del Mar, Torrey Pines area over the last couple hours. So we'll start with a meditation for those who are maybe new or sitting for the first time. Nothing's going to happen to you. Right? You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice. Meaning, don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right? Are you doing it wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos, and this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion, often it helps slide into the front third. Pushing the stomach forward allows the back to straighten, shoulders are relaxed. If you're on a bench or chair, however you're seated, also just trying to sit up straight if comfortable. I will guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. Most important, do not expect anything. We're just going to sit and breathe. Starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed, whatever is comfortable. Start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. Eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding your attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. Where's your mind? Lost in thought? Return to breath. keeping the mind alert. Aware of each sound. Each thought. Each physical sensation. Yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, speech, quiet, aware of all sounds. And the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. And most important, the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit, hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samutpata, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakening. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. he began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless where you come from or what you believe in and where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. More reactions. That's it. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to everything else that's happening throughout your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful. Whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. This practice is not easy. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. It's direct perception into the present moment. And very often, the present moment is filled with conflict, chaos, difficulty, challenges. And so this practice is learning to be with life as it arises and not running from it. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting, breathing, learning to be kind to yourself and everybody else you encounter. That's it. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything and everyone around us, and we work on changing our mind and our reaction to the world around us, life gets simpler. But it takes time. It's not a quick fix. It's not a 6-week course. It's not 6 months and then you got it all figured out. If you haven't figured it out yet, your entire life will be filled with conflict and difficulty and challenges. That's never going to change. What begins to change is the way we respond to it. That's what changes. And when we learn to respond to conflict and difficulty in a kinder, gentler, more loving way, that changes the situation. And very often creates less conflict after that. I don't know about any of you, but most of my life when there was conflict and I responded with anger and hatred and rage or anything else that wasn't so pleasant, it never made things better. It always made things worse. And then I had to figure out how to respond to that. And that was also usually in a way that made things worse. So in many ways, I think one of the most beautiful things I've learned from this practice is to just respond to life as it arises without being so triggered by every little thing. Because people will never do what you want them to. They'll never think what you want them to think. They'll never say what you want them to say. All day is going to be filled with things happening that you don't like. And hopefully a lot of things happening that you do like as well, but none of us show up to this practice because everything in life happens the way we want it to. We come to this practice because life isn't working the way we want it to. So, with that, I'll pause. For me, I always just prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. And to those who are joining virtually, again, welcome, glad you're here. Feel free as you are to say hello. If you have any questions, you can put them on the chat box here. I'll do my best to respond. But we'll use the rest of our brief time this evening, and I'll do my best to respond to questions.
Any thoughts on knowing when it's the right time to make a decision? Like, I think there's a idea, or maybe Buddhist thing, Han, that's like Vipassana or Sampata, something like that.
Vipassana? Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
So the question was, for those who didn't hear it or those virtual, any thoughts on knowing when it's the right time to make a decision? And then you mentioned vipassana and how that may play into it. So let me start with that part. Vipassana it just means insight. And it's the main type of meditation practice in the Theravada Buddhist tradition, which is the original teachings of the Buddha. And so the insight practice of meditation is a way to gain insight, clarity into the true nature of reality. The more clear that we're able to see life as it is, as opposed to life as we want it to be, in theory, the wiser choices we'll make, because we're seeing things as they're arising, not as we want them to be, right? So the Vipassana practice is really beautiful. Again, it's just, if you Google Vipassana or insight meditation, that's exactly what it is. Bob, who's doing newer, meaning he's just done the last 3 weeks, but does our Wednesday night class. I mean, he's been a Vipassana guy for probably 30 years. So he'd be a great one to ask about that, but since he's not sitting here right now, back to really the first part of your question, which is when is it the right time in Buddhist teachings to make a decision, right? So you've probably heard this before, but not making a decision, and this is very vague in general, because you know me, the less specifics I know, the better. But not making a decision is also, in fact, making a decision. Very often we're maybe afraid or scared, and not necessarily in a bad way, but we're just, there's reservation, there's hesitation in making major decisions in our lives because we don't know what the outcome can be. Maybe it could be for the better, it could be for the worse. So we often get kind of just frozen and make no decision. And that no decision is, in fact, a decision. I think of sports a lot, with everything, but especially a question like this pops into my head is, baseball, for example. You can decide, or let me rephrase that. The pitch comes in, and you're not sure if you should swing or not, so you just freeze. And in that freezing, you're actually giving the determining outcome, the decision is being made for you by somebody else. And that situation, multiple people, right? Pitcher throwing it, the umpire making the call. And so I could sit there and say, well, I'm not sure what to do, so I'm making no decision. I'm just going to sit here and watch this pitch. Meanwhile, other people are making the decisions for me. And I have actually made a decision, which was the decision to not make a decision, which is in fact a decision. Fully aware of the fact that I probably haven't helped you at all yet. Fearless. If you bring fearless into every situation, Chogyam Trungpa, the great Tibetan Buddhist teacher, he called it fearlessness or groundlessness. If you approach everything with just that absolute fearlessness, in many ways, this goes without saying, I'm not talking about harming people, but in many ways it doesn't matter what decision you make, because this groundlessness, this fearlessness, this ability to adapt to any situation comes into play. And you make a decision, however it turns out is how it turns out. You don't like how it turned out, there'll be more decisions to make. But sometimes that frozen fear is often can be worse. Make a decision and let the chips fall as they may. And when they fall and you don't like them, then make another decision. But I guess I'm just on a very personal level. I'm a fan of, in life, kind of attack may be the wrong word here, but in kind of, attacking life in a beautiful way. Not just sitting back afraid of it. But life is short, man. Whatever you want to do, go do it. Just don't wait.
As a follow-up, is any thoughts on curbing your expectations towards those things?
Yeah, the question was any thoughts on curbing your expectations. I wouldn't curb expectations. I would abandon them completely.
How would I abandon an expectation? Is it like desires to expect something?
Yeah, I think, following up from the first question to the second one, make a decision and do your best to not expect anything from the decision. And appreciate, to me, so your question specifically is how do you not have expectations with the situation?
Which I think is impossible.
Yeah, that's right. You can think it's impossible, that's fine. It's not. You might think it is, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
But find gratitude. I've made a lot of bad decisions in my life, and I'm grateful for every single one of them because it taught me what an idiot I was. And this idea of abandoning expectations doesn't mean that you don't care about the outcome. I get it. On a logical, practical sense, you make a decision, you want it to work out a certain way. That's why you're stuck on what should I choose to do. I want it to be a certain way, and I'm afraid, or I don't know if it will be, so I don't make it. Make a decision and be grateful for however it turns out, because there's something to gain and learn from that experience. But the answer to how do you abandon expectations on decisions is gratitude for each situation that arises. Grateful for the things that happen that are painful. There are opportunities to learn and grow. Yeah. What else?
In a lot of decisions that I make and need to make, I struggle with what is being fearless and like the general mentality that I have or strive to have versus like what is being reckless or brash when I get impatient or feel restless and can feel like I don't know, I guess it comes back to not being attached to alcohol necessarily, but there's that gets me to a point where then I freeze because I'm overanalyzing what is my actual motivation here, and I'm sitting here doing it right now.
Yeah.
So, I still obviously haven't figured out how to measure that.
Sure. And, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
You get it.
Yeah. No, I think that's another aspect to this. To take it even a little bit further, deeper, is that yes, underneath everything I was just saying, and you said it. What is the motivation? What is the intention behind it? And always with Buddhist teachings, look at any actions, and regardless of the expectation or attachment to the outcome, is our motivation and intention coming from a place of greed, anger, ignorance, pride, ego, all about me? Or is the intention and motivation coming from a place of generosity, compassion, and wisdom, and balanced with actually what other people think and want? If I look back, pretty much every decision I made that caused tremendous pain and suffering in my life or someone else's pretty much was being made because I thought about me as the most important person in the situation. But if I actually consider somebody else's thoughts and feelings and emotions at least equally to mine, then the decisions change. But either way, there's still the outcomes are going to be the outcomes. And no matter how pure your intention may be, how genuinely kind and compassionate your effort may be, doesn't mean it's going to be received that way. I mean, you ever put a lot of time and heart and energy into something, really beautiful, and then they're just like, nah, not so much, But the beauty is in that act, not in how things are received. So, yeah. So there's a question here. Can you reflect on possessing emotions that debilitate us? Yeah, I think that so for me, to look at, even the way you say possessing emotions that debilitate us, the possessing emotions, what that triggers for me really is this thought around impermanence. And before we even get to the part that, debilitates us is, I love the teachings in Buddhism around, thoughts coming and going, arising and falling, like clouds passing by, or airplanes, or ocean waves, waves crashing, coming to the shore, and then going out again. I think what I'm not necessarily stuck on, but I think what catches me is this idea of possessing the emotion as if it's permanent. And so I think it's helpful to the second part of how it debilitates us is to recognize that we are experiencing these emotions as temporary moments. And even if that emotion of sadness stays for 6 weeks or 6 months or 6 years, it's still temporary, and it can and will fade at moments in time. And at sometimes, even if you've been miserable and depressed for 30 years, there were moments for those 30 years that you were less or more depressed. So it changes all the time. Same thing with happiness, right? These emotions change. So I think, Buddhist teachings around impermanence of all conditioned phenomena, especially emotions, because all emotions is our reaction to certain experiences that come from our thoughts. And our thoughts, we should know by now, or if you don't know, are as fleeting and impermanent as anything. They're just like a freaking train wreck, It's like a train going 1,000 miles an hour off every single rail. And yet we jump on one that we think is like this permanent thing, and it sticks with us. So, very clearly, if you have emotions that are just crushing you, understand that emotion will pass. And as I often say, I talk about this a lot, but for somebody who grew up super angry, super depressed, super miserable, once I began to see that there was actually another way to live, and that me being stuck in kind of my stubbornness of being angry and pissed off was just ruining any opportunity to find things that are beautiful and experience beauty. So try to see the impermanence of these emotions. And again, I'm guessing even just the semantics of possessing emotions is just a way to type it out, but just pointing out that, we don't need to possess them. We just experience them and watch them. No different than watching a movie. It's like, next time you're just having an emotional breakdown, grab some popcorn, just sit and it's like, oh, this is my emotion. This sucks. With some popcorn. This is miserable. You like that one, huh? Yeah, I've never said that before. I just made that up. I make up everything, by the way. But, I feel like your response is going to align with your previous response, but I'm stubborn. That's funny, because at first I thought you were calling me stubborn, which I am, but, I see. So so it does align, but a little bit differently. I think just watch, begin to watch the emotions and thoughts, as opposed to trying to attach to them as these things that are never going to change. I mean, we change 1,000,000 times a day with our heart and our mind. So always changing. What else?
How do you handle discomfort?
Discomfort. Man, I'm a bad one to ask that question because, I've become, I think, so twisted with this practice that I just love discomfort. I mean, I really do. I think as a practitioner, what allowed me to really bring this into creating major change in my life was actually welcoming discomfort. Because, as I always did, and as many do, we as the Buddha taught, we seek and crave comfort. And again, if you're brand new to Buddhism, I'm not saying that being comfortable and pleasant is bad or wrong. Like, I'm not suggesting that we constantly live in this place of discomfort. But for me as a practitioner, it was the constant craving and desire to always have comfort. Like, just always. And then when that comfort was kind of challenged or taken or pulled away a little bit, then it's like, no. Then there's that resistance. There's the aversion to any little thing that goes against what comfort is. And so what I learned through this practice very early on was to, in many ways, again, I'm not suggesting that anybody do this, but for me, I had to go to the extreme. I almost sought out discomfort because I needed to learn to be okay with discomfort. And I remember my first night in Taiwan in the monastery, and I had just arrived and had been up 36 hours or whatever it was. This is 2005. And I arrived pretty late at night, and they put me down in this shed area, right? It was first day of Lunar New Year, so there's 10,000 people on the mountain, and everything was just chaos there until everything got settled. So the first 2 nights, I'm in this shed thing, and they gave me this little pack of what we would probably see as just a pack of a small pack of napkins almost, and a sleeping bag. That was it. So I was are these napkins the blanket? What's going on here? And the napkins were the toilet paper, and the sleeping bag was the sleeping bag. So I'm just cool, bring it on, this is it. And it's about 110 degrees, and you're trying to sleep, and you're in this shed, and you're being attacked all night long by mosquitoes. And one of the first 5 precepts is do no what? Harm. 36 hours earlier, I would have been smashing every single one of those mosquitoes all night long. But there I was, just as miserable and uncomfortable as possible, being just devoured by mosquitoes. And I was like, this is what it's going to be like. Yeah. So I toned it down a bit. But I think discomfort is where we learn. It's where we grow. It's where we experience the pride, the ego, the self. Again, this practice is not about making sure you get everything you want. It's actually learning to be okay with getting what you don't want. And then it doesn't matter what you get or have or don't have, because you're okay with any of it. Yeah. What else? Not going to lie, though, I didn't complain after 2 nights when they moved me into another place. I didn't request to go back to the shed. I don't want to seem like I was, But, yeah. What else?
often you say we take refuge in Buddha, and I wanted to understand refuge means stay.
Yeah.
But you also say a lot of times Buddha is not, it's dead. So how can you be safe? How can we take refuge in
A dead guy. Yeah? Is that it? Are you still going?
Yeah, I just wanted to understand that deeper. I wish you would kind of explain it more.
No, you look like you were still going to talk, so I didn't want to start. Yeah. So the question was around, we take refuge in the Buddha, but then I often talk about how the Buddha passed away 2,500 years ago, so how does that all work, right? So at the very beginning, we do what's called taking refuge in the Triple Gem, where for me as a practitioner, this is a formal ritual practice, and so I recite the Triple Gem, taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, right? So to walk through them first, and I think you said safety, right? I always like people to look at the word refuge. When you hear the word refuge, what does that word mean to you? Just shout out some stuff.
Escape or actually, no, being safe.
Safe? What else? Haven? Comfort? Calm? Home? What else? Protection. So whatever word comes to mind, it's just kind of important to know what refuge means to you. Safety, comfort, protection, home, calm, whatever it is, right? So then we're looking at the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. When we take refuge in the Buddha, you're not taking refuge in the Buddha himself, right? You're taking refuge in what's called bodhicitta, or Buddha nature. And the teaching behind this is that, yes, the Buddha himself, he lived, he died. We have a respect for him as a person who taught a beautiful way of life, but he passed. So we're not looking for safety from him because he died. He can't help us right now. But what we're taking refuge in is bodhicitta, Buddha nature, that is within all of us. The Buddha taught very clearly that we as humans are all already awakened. Isn't that good? You're already there. You're good. We're already awakened. We just don't realize it. So the practice isn't to attain some awakening that is outside of us. It's to cultivate and awaken to the Buddha nature, bodhicitta, that's within all of us. The Buddha was a human, right? He woke up, he ate, he went to the bathroom, he slept. He did the same things we do. And he figured out how to end his suffering. So we find safety, comfort, and protection knowing that some other person figured out how to end their suffering. So we too can figure it out. I don't wake up each day and think, when is my suffering going to be over? For me as a practice, I think, can I suffer less today than I did yesterday? And knowing that someone else figured out how to end suffering, I'm glad that it's within us. We don't need somebody else to do it for us. If we needed somebody else to end suffering for us, that would suck. We'd be spending our whole lives waiting for someone else to take away my misery. But once I realized that I could take away my own misery, simply because I created it, but I could take it away, that was really beautiful, right? The other thing is important to understand around taking refuge in bodhicitta and awakening to the Buddha nature that's within us. That's the metaphor on a sunny day, right, or a cloudy day, right? You go outside, there's clouds. Is the sun still there? Yes, but you can't see it, right? So that sun is covered with the clouds. The clouds are greed, anger, ignorance. That's our craving, that's our desire, that's our attachment, that's our sense of self. These clouds is what's blocking the sun from being seen. So as a practice, we work on cutting through craving, desire, greed, anger, ignorance, so that sun, that Buddha nature that's within us, can shine. We don't have to go get it anywhere. It's already there. Right? So we are that sun. We're just covered. I don't know about you, but I got a lot of clouds. Right? So the practice is to part the clouds. That's taking refuge in the Buddha, Buddha nature within us. The second is the Dharma. Those are the teachings. Finding safety, comfort, protection. And if we practice loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity, all these things you hear about, these kind of key buzzwords in Buddhism, if you practice that, you'll be a kinder, gentler, happier person. So for me, it's really wonderful to know that if I put these teachings into my life, then I can be happier. So I take refuge. I find safety, comfort, protection in knowing that all I have to do is follow being kind. And then the third one is taking refuge in the Sangha, and that's the community. That's, at the time of the Buddha, it was the monks and the nuns and, the people that they lived with. And now today, kind of modern day Buddhism, we call Sangha the community of people that we practice with. They come together to, hold each other accountable, to challenge each other, to ask questions, to support each other, to push each other's buttons, things like that. But I like to look at Sangha as kind of outside of just like a meditation, yoga, kind of spiritual setting. You're stuck in traffic, that's your Sangha, that's your community. You're at work, you hate it there, that's your Sangha, that's your community. You're with family around the holiday time, you want to, punch everyone, that's your Sangha, right? That's your community. So Sanghas, I think, are everywhere. And if we often, if we treated people in all those Sanghas the way we tend to treat people in these Sanghas, those places would probably go much better. But we don't. We kind of hold our meditation spiritual places in this high regard, and then everywhere else we treat people like crap. So don't do that. Does that help? Yeah. So there's a question here, and I think I'll close with this, maybe. What is the laughing Buddha we always see in images smiling? Any clue? Why, rather? Okay. So the laughing Buddha, right? And I hate to shatter, it's just kind of like finding out that the Easter Bunny's not real. Or Santa Claus. I have to look around. There's no kids in the room. I've ruined this before for kids. But that is not the Buddha. So what you refer to as the laughing Buddha, the guy with the big belly, always often holding a bag. His name was Hotei. Hotei, means bag carrier. He was a monk in China about 1,000 years ago. Always happy, always jolly, pretty wealthy. Had a big sack of stuff that he would always carry around and give out as gifts. Sound familiar? Somehow, Western culture, so the iconography of Buddhism, anytime Buddhism enters a new culture, it always starts with the images. And that's what countries see first, is the image of the Buddha, and then that begins to take shape, and then the teachings kind of follow. But this culture, you go back to when was Charlie's Angels out? The 70s? Who was a Charlie's Angels fan, right? The 70s. You look at Charlie's Angels episodes, right? Pull old ones up. There are Buddhas everywhere in that show. So people just started to see the images of the Buddha. And for some reason, I don't know why, but Hotei, the happy Buddha, or laughing Buddha, became the really first kind of prominent image of the Buddha in Western culture that we began to see. So people would rub his belly for good luck. You go to casinos, right? You got the Hotei Buddha right there. You haven't even gambled yet, and people are throwing money at this big Buddha. Casinos are sweet, We got their money and you haven't even gambled. They're just throwing money because they see it as good luck. You go to nail salons, you see the happy Buddha there. They're kind of like the money cat, right? It's just waving money in. Same idea. So these happy Buddhas are prosperous. That's how they're seen historically, but they're not the Buddha. He was a monk in China. And I actually think that's kind of why Buddhism in Western culture initially got seen as this, where there's this big bellied god floating in the sky or something like that. He was just a monk. I don't mean just a monk, but he was a monk. Rub the belly for good luck. That's the cultural belief, that it represents prosperity. Yes, it represents happiness. Different ones, if you get into detail, it's kind of iconography of them. There are ones that represent safe travels, happiness, wealth, good family, prosperity of any kind. So each happy Buddha has kind of a different, and sometimes all, representation. It's also said that if you rub the head, it's bad luck. The worst Google review we ever got was 10 years ago, the old Buddha for You. Someone came in and started rubbing the head of the happy Buddha. And I said, hey, it's bad luck. And she wrote like this 3-page long review. Like, never going to Buddha for you again. The guy there just ruined my vibe or whatever. It's like, just trying to help you out. But yeah, so rub the belly, not the head. In case you want it, if you want it to work. I'm going to close on that because I'm already exhausted. So we'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to those who need it most. All right, before you all head out, our Dharma Bum host Anna has a few announcements for us. Thanks, Anna.
Hello, everyone. I'm tonight's host, Anna. We opened Dharma Bum Temple 17 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and are not looking for students. They are simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night, we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it and then bring it back whenever you are done with it. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. If a few people could stay to close and latch the windows, that would be helpful. Thank you for being here. We wish you well. Hope to see you again. And a special announcement, Dharma Bum Temple will be marching in the Pride Parade Saturday, July 20th. Please go on the website and click Pride Parade to sign up. And there's also a flyer in the hall with the QR code. Thanks.
And one last thing on the parade, for those who haven't heard, we also, Dharma Bum Temple this year is receiving from San Diego Pride the Light of Pride Award, which is really just a tremendous honor. Every year, San Diego Pride selects one organization, faith-based religious organization, that represents just showing tremendous strength for the LGBTQ community and ally, as well as for us. This is a spiritual home to the Pride community. So it'll be beautiful. On July 20th is a Wednesday night. We'll receive an award at the Light of the Cathedral. And then, as Anna said, the 17th. And then, as Anna said, on the 20th, we'll be marching in the parade. There's also a Facebook group, either Dharma Bum Temple Sangha or Dharma Bum Temple Pride Parade. So you can stay updated there if you want to join that. But I put on the fly on the application that we would have between 50 and 100 people marching with us. So please march with us on July 20th.